Just turned 6:30, and I see that in the room and online, we do have a quorum. Councilman Lowen is absent as we start the meeting. We'll call the meeting of the City Council, City of Hillsborough to order. First item on our agenda tonight is our consent agenda. We have vouchers, and this is an amended total of $295,962.31. Did everyone receive copies of the amended vouchers?
Yes.
Okay, were there any questions regarding the vouchers? We also have minutes for the 1/17/2023 meeting. Did everyone receive copies of the minutes? Were there any questions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, we also have an activated carbon purchase of $26,640 for water production. Everybody received a copy of that?
Yep.
Were there, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, yep.
Okay, is there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Driggers moves, Councilman McCarty seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. And we now come to our first public comment opportunity. And I see that we do have members of the public. I think we have some of Mr. Knoll's high school senior class here for getting their extra credit points. Now, if you come more than once, do you get double the extra credit or
Get the same amount of points.
the same amount of points? So it's usually a one and done kind of thing. Is that what I?
You can do it twice, up to 2 times.
Okay, very good. Because I thought I've seen you guys here before, so appreciate you being here. Anybody else? I don't see anybody online that from the public. Do you, Matt?
No.
Okay, so we'll close our first public comment opportunity and we will go into item D, which is a presentation from Johnson Service Company on relining of sewer lines, camera, and cleaning of phase 2 of sewer system. And I believe we have Monty Dakin here from Johnson Service Company.
Yeah.
So if you'll take the podium and
You can close that bucket.
Having me here to talk about this, what we've been working with Caleb and Morgan on is a couple months ago, as you guys voted on having the first phase of your system re-TV to kind of find some I&I issues and also find some the deterioration issues that are within the system. We're have worked with them since that portion of UMC came in and did that video work, and then we've helped go through and evaluate that as far as what areas are damaged. Actually provided a simplified report. You can kind of pass that one around if you want. It just identifies the areas that need to be fixed before anything and before the lining can be done, or the areas that we found to be prioritized within that system. So now we're talking about doing the phase 2, about 10,000 feet of video work to find the same thing, and also repairing the footage, about 4,500 feet of 8-inch clay tile line that has the damage to it. So a little bit of history on us, I guess I'll start with that is the Johnson Service Company. We're based out of Kearney, Nebraska. We've been working in Kearney or in Nebraska and Kansas since the early 60s. We're a division of Midland Contracting, so an underground contractor, water sewer installation contractor. We have 5 clean back TV crews, full-time lining crew, and a full-time manhole crew. So a little bit thing that separates us from a lot of other contractors that do this type of work is we do 100% vac, everything that we do clean. So we do remove all the debris from the lines as we're jetting. It's just kind of our standard. Actually, NASCO standard, the national standard, is to remove 95% of the debris from the lines prior to any type of investigative work that's being done. So we guarantee that by actually removing those We clean between Nebraska and Kansas, we clean about 1.6 million feet a year and TV about 900,000 of that. So we're fairly large company, probably one of the largest companies in the Midwest that do this. And we're also a family-owned company. So family-owned company that's probably one of the only companies that still does a CIPP and competes with the larger national companies to do that too. So another thing that kind of makes us a little bit more unique is we actually evaluate all the footage that we do, and then we review it all and make recommendations. So when our guys are in their vans and they're videoing line and they're communicating with Caleb or with Morgan on what they find, they're actually giving them solutions to what can be done. And we really need to look at this, or this is an area that needs concentration, or just the communication part's important to form a partnership between us and the community to evaluate and then come up with solutions, more of a solution-based company to resolve those. You guys have any questions for me?
Like you brought a piece of
Yeah.
what the cross section looks like.
So you guys have had some lighting done in town this in the past. This is actually the product that we're talking about using. It is an M2 made by Mississippi Textiles. It is a textile material. You can look at that unused sewer liner. So is actually like I said, it's a textile material. It's actually inverted in the installation process. So what you're looking at is that is the inside, and then the outside is the inside of that material is impregnated with resin. And so that resin, as we shoot it from one manhole to the next, then hardens out. We steam cure that within the line, and then it forms a solid material, which is this. This has 100-year. Here you go. Sorry, this has 100-year design life to the material. So once it's put in the ground, it's seamless. So when we're talking about not only reducing or repairing the structural repairs, which what the material was designed for in the first place was a structural repair, but we do get a benefit, a byproduct of that as reducing up to 90% of the I&I that comes within the system by making it a seamless product, by
So-
making it seamless from one end to the other.
Is this a fiberglass product?
Just fiber. Yeah,
Just-
yeah. There's really no fiberglass. And the resin is what hardens out and holds it together. So the nice thing about this product is it does form itself to the pipe. So any of the bells or seams within the pipe, it's going to form itself to that and lock itself in. And then we go in robotically and reinstate the services, cut the services back out, and put everything back into service. This, an average block is 350 feet. Our company, when we would come into town to do this, when we set up on the manholes to get started, from the time we start to the time we finish, you're talking about 5 hours per line. So 2 liners a day, 10 hours, you get a brand new sewer line with a 100-year design life. So pretty efficient, especially when you look at surface replacement and things like that, digging down 10, 12 feet under the surface with fiber and all the different utilities that are in the ground anymore. This is a pretty efficient and cheap way to do those repairs.
So the restriction in the ID of the pipe that causes is not enough to create any kind of
No, I mean,
backups or
you're
anything,
really only about that 1/8 of an inch reduction within the pipe.
which is typically what diameter?
8 inch. So
8
what we're
inch.
talking, most of the pipe is 8 inch. This can be done with this process with the steam cure and the air inversion can be done from 6 inch up to about 24 inch. After that, you either want to do a UV curing or a water cure to do the larger diameters. So it's probably the most popular rehab process or method that's being used on especially clay tile pipe, cast iron pipe, those types of materials.
What about structural integrity? I mean, some of these pipes are probably, even though you can come in and line them, what does that do? I would imagine it helps with the structural integrity.
Correct. This is actually going to take over as the pipe within the system. So the clay tile pipe that's there, this is actually the stronger than any other material, that you can put in the ground. That's another benefit to this. It's the structural integrity of this is is incredibly strong. So when that clay tile pipe is in there, this basically doesn't attach itself to the pipe. There is an annular space between there, so then you still have the chance of I or water or roots growing between the two materials or running between the two materials. There's end seals and things you can put on the ends of the pipe to prevent water from getting back into the system that are always applied to these. But once that clay tile pipe deteriorates or breaks away, this is your pipe. This is going to be your new pipe. So any new reinstates or any new services that get added to the system or get repaired on the system are going to be want to attach to this and not to the clay tile pipe.
Makes sense.
So what we.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
Matt, I
Yep.
did want Caleb to show a map of the system real fast and the area that we're talking about doing.
For our, this will be our phase 2.
Everybody's gonna be able to see it.
Yeah.
So on phase 1, so the one that they're gonna come in and pre-camera for the liner was from the train tracks to Third Street, from Adams all the way to Cedar. So on phase 2, we're looking at from, it'd be Adams to Ash, from the train tracks to D Street. Any of the stuff that is marked red, which is EVH has deemed as collapsed or in major need of repair. And we also focused on all the green, which I highlighted, which is the clay tile. Because over the last, well, since 2013, who knows what the ground's done to the pipe. So while they're here doing phase 2, we put anything that was clay for them to look at. To see if we need to address anything.
So even if it's red, we can do this, or?
So red is what we know for sure from 2013 that was deemed bad.
But this process will still work on that.
Yes,
Yeah, we've had to make, well, for example, in phase 1, we've had to make 43 point repairs.
no, we're on 13.
13, okay. So there were a lot of, we had to make a lot of point repairs.
There's 8 underground that we've had to dig, and then there's several flush pits. We've had to go in and knock out the bottoms of the manholes.
Yeah.
So
we've been going through and doing some of the work to prep for that, but even some of the sections, I know we've had to replace entire sections that had collapsed. So we've gone and replaced those, and then you can come back through and line that. So it's all one contiguous kind of piece.
So the red, sorry, it's kind of orange from where I'm sitting. But that's red. I mean, it's pretty spread out across town. I mean, it's not necessarily concentrated in any one area.
yeah, that's why we're breaking it down into phases, just to make it, that way we could check certain parts of town. Using lift stations, we could see kind of how the flow paths of the INI are being affected. So we're, I guess, sectioning them off to just different parts that we know are guessing are the worst.
So after phase 2, then there's phase 3
Yep, but-
and a 4 or just 3?
There's most likely 4.
Okay.
We haven't really gone into talked about phase 3, but what I'm guessing we're gonna probably do is from D Street, all the way south, all the way down to Willow Glen. And then, from Ash down, and then on phase 4, most likely be from, Ash Street all the way to the far side of town. Cause that's, once we get into this section here on Ash from D Street up to, Grand is all clay. It's never been, lined or anything.
So you can see we've got quite a bit of work to do. The reason we started with phase 1 was because you can see all the orange lines up there. That's obviously where we have the most concentrated area of problem. Of course, we're working with KDHE and EPA on the INI consent decree. So that's kind of the big push to get this done. The alternative was to reroute a couple of the lift stations, which is $1.5 million, and doesn't really address the issue. So yeah, this proposal is probably the most economical way to go in and reline these sewers to try to take care of that INI situation. That north phase one section there is probably our primary culprit. We can tell that by the flows coming into the lift stations when it rains. Pretty easy to figure out where the culprits are. So you've got really two proposals. You guys can probably put that down. Huh? We really have two proposals here. There's one for the cleaning and hammering of phase two, which is up to 10,000 linear feet, the way I understood read that.
And in the quote, the way that we do the cleaning is just it's a per foot charge. So it's linear foot. We show a linear foot to clean back and TV the line, a linear foot to cut roots if we find roots in there, and then an hourly charge for heavy cleaning. So anything that we use over 1,000 gallons of water to clean one line to try to get it down. If there's additional silt in that line or it's really heavy and debris, once we get to that point of using 1,000 gallons, which is multiple passes, then we would charge by the hour. So we may run into that, we may not run into it, but those are just so that the chargers are understood. And then on the lining side, there's two different mobilization charges shown. The one mobilization charge, we're actually booked right now until about August with lining, starting in April till August. If we prioritize this and move it to the front, we'd actually start the process next week. So we would start with the TV work next week and start the lining in April. So we would move everything else up the list and put you guys on the priority to get this started. So that's really the difference.
And so that's the 247, 326.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, with that number, since we're going to be coming in and doing a pre-liner. So some of the videos that were done were not completed videos because they couldn't get through the pipe. So we're going to be getting exact numbers that we can order liners from. So it will be a per foot charge. So as far as that being an exact number, the two, I can't say that's what it is. I will have that exact footage once we're done with the pre-liner. And then, so if you guys wanted to approve up to a certain amount or whatever it would be, we could work with that and have those discussions. At least to get started on it.
Sure.
The one of the benefits to this is we're fortunate that our lining superintendent is available to start videoing next week. So he will not only look at what's going to be done the pre-liner, and he's going to be doing the lining, but he'll also be looking at the second phase and be advising on that also. So that's one benefit we do have with using Josh for that. So
I noticed that we have this item separated in the agenda. I mean, does it make sense to
if we wanna-
to move that business side, those
Yeah.
business items up,
Sure.
since we're talking about it now? Are there any questions up to this point? If not, I would suggest that we jump around in our agenda and go to items G1 and 2, and Mr. Stiles, I'll let you start with G1.
Which is the lining, I believe, right? Yep, okay. So we've pretty well covered most of what it is. The consent decree is really the issue here with the INI. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to the severity of the situation or the need to move it forward quickly, or
Well, we have about a year left to comply with that consent decree. It was a five-year process, and we're coming in late at the end of it, trying to solve this problem in about a year.
and so we just had, and of course, with the consent decree, it's always great to try to get it all completed, but if we can show
Right.
some substantial progress toward it, then
We can ask for some additional time.
it's more time to do
Right.
more of it, so.
Exactly.
So there's kind of an impetus to move forward on it. And we've been doing other things with this, and we'll have another conversation a little later about the sump pump amnesty program. We've been raising manholes, we've been doing some site improvements down at the main lift station. This is kind of the next piece of it. We did go out, and when we talked about lining, we did get a contract or bids from other companies. It's kind of a specific thing, isn't there? It's not like there's 100 companies out there who do this. So we have Johnson Services, utility maintenance contractors who did the original cammering and cleaning for us last year. They came in about $100,000 more anticipated costs there. I don't think that they actually want to do the work. I think that's part of why they're that much more expensive. Then we did talk with Middle Creek out of Peabody. They don't do lining. They would go through and burst the pipes and set new pipes in. So a little bit different process, a lot more expensive process. So right now, the sewer fund has the money to approve this. I mean, we have the fund balance to do it. It's not in the budget, so we would have to make an amendment to the budget to cover the capital costs, which we can do at any time between now and the end of the year. So there's money to do the first phase. Now, when we start to get into the second phase, depending on the severity, then we may have to have a conversation about going and finding some money. But this will get us a pretty good ways to start this process and hopefully become more compliant with the INI, the consent decree. So I think that we're recommending moving forward with this. I don't, unless there's anything that we haven't covered or need to flesh out more, if you guys haven't.
Now, when we did the initial cleaning and cameraing of that first section up there, we came up with, they said 13 different point repairs that needed to be fixed. And we got a quote from a couple of different companies to come in and fix those repairs, and they were about $50,000 to do that. And we decided to try and do that in-house. So we're doing those repairs in-house with our crews. And basically the first ones that we've done, we've dug up the sewer line where it's collapsed, and we're replacing 10 feet or 20 feet or 30 feet of sewer pipe where it's been collapsed in place. And I think we'll try and do that with the second phase too. If we successfully get through the first phase. So we're going to do our part to try and cut down on the cost by doing those repairs ourselves in-house. We've had some assistance with the electric department. They've helped us out a couple of times. And it's within our bailiwick to do if we have the time. So we'll keep plugging away at those types of repairs and hopefully prevent having a contractor come in and do those if we can.
And the nice part about getting the camera work for phase 2 done now, that gives us almost a full year to do point repairs, depending on how many they find
Right.
for the next budget cycle.
Any questions from the council? So I guess what we're looking for is a motion to approve expenditures at this point not to exceed $247,326. And then we would come back to the council if in fact we looked that like we were going to exceed those and address it then.
Correct.
Is that copacetic with everybody? Because, if Johnson is available to get started that quickly, I think we ought to probably take action. So would somebody care to make that motion?
Oh,
Councilman McCarty will move. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman By seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Second part of this is consideration of a proposal from Johnson Service Company for the camera and cleaning of designated section of sewer at a cost of $18,500. And is that also subject to potential
I believe so.
increase?
yes. What I normally ask is if you put a limit to that way, as we're doing the work, if we come close to that limit, we stop and there's no unexpected expenses to it. It can always be increased, but that way there's the communication still there. So we normally see, 7 to 10% increase as far as additional things that we find within the system.
Okay. So are you comfortable with starting out with the 18.5?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay. Any questions? Would somebody care to make that motion? Councilman McCarty is in a motion making mood tonight. Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Driggers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thank you very much, Monty. We appreciate it. And we especially appreciate you guys being able to get started so
Oh, you
quickly.
bet. Yeah, we'll get on this and get going and we'll see what we find and we'll get started on the lining.
Let's go.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Monty.
Do you want us to say for the sump pump part, or do you have that part covered?
I can probably handle it if you need to go. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Basketball game. I got.
Yeah.
a date for that.
At least it's on.
Okay, so we're gonna go back up on the agenda to annual department head presentation, and today we have Doug Sisk, our rec director, here to give us an annual report on the rec program. Mr. Sisk?
How are we doing today?
Good.
First off, I'd like to thank you for letting me come and present for you today. I've worked for the city for over 16 years and I've enjoyed working in this community. When I started out in the fall of 2006, the HRC program and appropriations revenue was just a little bit over $50,000. Last year, our estimated program and appropriations revenue was right around $166,000. When we finished the end of last year, it actually turned out to be $182,000. With the expenses at $175,000. And which basically caused a net revenue of about $6,666, which I considered a pretty good revenue, net revenue. So I felt pretty good about our revenue after last year. So some of the improvements that we've been having out at the sports complex. We were able to complete another set of bleachers over Tabor Field. That helped us to where we were able to, we only have one more set to finish. And then we'll have all the fields with bleachers on them. And then we also have a batting cage that's being built by Tabor. This is being put in down closer to their field. It also will include a bullpen. Which we haven't had a bullpen out there. Normally we just go out in the grass and do that kind of thing, but the Tabor softball team raised money for this. And they are actually putting this in, so that's money that we're not actually putting into this. Tabor's putting it in, so it's a project that they are doing. Another project that we're doing out there is we are in the process of getting ready to pour tee pads for our disc golf here this spring. This is going to go along with our new tee markers that we put in this last fall. If you've been out on our disc golf course, we just put up brand new tee markers, which makes the course look really, really nice. And since then, we were able to, like I said, go with putting in the concrete pads, and it's going to make our course a little bit more competitive. Disc golfers are going to want to come here, and we can start doing a little bit more tournaments and bring disc golfers even more than what we do now. So,
And this was one of our senior class projects as well.
yes, it was.
Yeah, last year.
Yep. Another thing that's going on, and it's got started today. We're in the process of overhauling our infields. The plan is to start with the 2 high school fields and the middle field. We're going to square them up, cut a new arc, cut them back to where they need to be, do about where the arc or the irrigation is. And that way we have a new beginning of where it should be. We're going to get this done before the season gets started for high school ball.
And then as soon as summer ball is over with, then we're gonna go ahead and do the Tabor softball field also. And then we're going to remove all the material that's on all the fields. Cut it down to at least 2 inches. If we need to cut it down a little bit more, we'll cut it down a little bit more. And then we're gonna bring in at least 4 inches of shell back on, raise it up, reestablish a good grade so that they're able to drain. And then we're gonna put all new base anchors, home plates, and pitching rubbers in on all of the fields. So it's gonna really help that our fields will be back up to looking snuff. This should have been done a long time ago, but I didn't have a person that could do it, and it will make it look a lot nicer. So basically the price of this for a Memorial Baseball field is $29,000. For the softball fields, it's $19,000 a piece. For basically a total price of $85,000. The HRC is gonna be paying for the majority of it. But we do have some funds in our budget, in the sports complex budget, that will be helping to pay for some of this also, so.
In the school districts also
Yes,
kicking in on some of that.
yeah, so. Our last project that we're working on is a joint project with Tabor. We're in the process of lining the Tabor tennis courts for pickleball. Because we did send out a survey, and that's one of the things that kept coming up on the survey was we want pickleball, so. Right now, there's one pickleball court at Tabor, and we're gonna go ahead and line the other 3 tennis courts to be pickleball courts. And then as soon as we get that all complete, then we're gonna try and showcase it with a pickleball tournament and start running some pickleball tournaments. So in your packet, I did include some of our program numbers, because last year when I was here, I was asked about our participation numbers. The participation number that I gave you guys, it basically dates back to 2015. But basically last year, we had 898 kids participate in all of our programs. This is basically the most that we've had since 2017, which we had 899 participants. Other than that, the normal average that we get is right around 875 kids in our programs. So I feel pretty good that we were able to get up to that number. We did have of course, the COVID year of 2020. We were down to 513 kids that still participated in our programs. So, but in closing, I feel that the HRC is doing very well, and we've got many exciting things that are happening. But there's always ways that we can improve, and I'm always looking for new program ideas. So if you ever come across anything that you think that we need to be looking at, or want to come and talk to me, or feel free to give me a holler. I'm always available. But other than that, do you have any questions for me?
I would just say, again, keep up the collaboration with Tabor. That's critical, for us as a small town to pool those kind of resources. So I'm excited to see that, and I'm assuming too that we didn't necessarily mention USD 410, but we have pretty heavy collaboration with them as well.
We do.
So just one question I have that in terms of, for example, the ball field repairs, we lease those to Tabor to the USD 410, do we not?
We lease them to USD 410. We haven't really had a lease with Tabor.
Okay,
But Tabor, what normally happens there, or basically since Jeff has gotten there. Jeff has really taken on the role of taking care of that field during his season. And we've let him kind of use our equipment. But he brings in the dirt, he brings in, I mean, he purchases the dirt with his own money from his, what he's raised, through parking and everything. And I mean, he's been putting about $2,000 a year of dirt onto his.
I guess where I was going with that is if people think that USD 410 isn't contributing, because you
No,
obviously
they are.
explained where Tabor's
Yeah.
contributing.
No,
I mean, the
the high
USD
school-
410 does contribute
the
too.
high school pays, yearly stipend.
It's a compensation every year. I can't remember how much it is. I'd have to look.
But
Yeah.
the
They
amount
do.
isn't necessarily
No,
the point. It's the point that we're all the organizations are cooperating
and they
collaborating.
have ever since I've been here, so they've
Right.
been very well.
Yeah. So we want to just keep that going.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Comments? Thank you, Doug.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Yep.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next item up on the hit parade, we have Sergeant John Hubert to talk to us about the Special Law Enforcement Trust Fund Annual Report. That's a lot of
There's a lot
stuff in there.
There is, and it's actually more than just the trust fund.
Okay,
So in 2009 or 2019, Kansas legislation passed requirements for all law enforcement agencies within the state of Kansas to report all asset forfeitures made by an agency to a repository with the state. And as a part of that legislation, there is a requirement that the law enforcement agency is to report to the governing body annually what has occurred, reference seizures, forfeitures, proceeds and expenditures. So that was also then adopted by ordinance by the city of Hillsborough. So that's what brings us to this. Okay, so in 2022, we, as an agency, did not seize any cash assets as a result of any criminal investigations. We did seize one vehicle as a result of a criminal investigation. As a result of those seizures, we were awarded at the end of the year through forfeiture processes, the vehicle that was seized for forfeiture. That vehicle still remains has been transitioned as a result of the forfeiture as a property asset to the agency, and will sometime later this year will be auctioned off per statute. And then those proceeds will then come back into the Special Law Enforcement Trust Fund. We only had one expenditure from this year, and that was a purchase of what is referred to as an ANPR, an automatic plate recognition camera. That camera is still in testing and is just a little bit more advanced. It is able to capture, recognize a tag and place what is recognized into a database, which makes it searchable. So if we have a known tag, we can search it. Whereas currently what we have available to us within the city at the four-way and a couple of other locations, those are just cameras that are designed for the purpose of being able to look at the video, say that, be able to read what the camera is or what the tag is. So that doesn't read into a database, it's searchable, except for you have to manually go and watch video. So so we're working on testing the new camera as a future option for upgrades. So so currently under forfeiture, the agency holds 2 items of physical property, a firearm that was reported in a prior annual report, and the vehicle from this year. So in reporting to the state, we have to report our beginning balance and our ending balance, and we are required to balance at 0, and we have successfully done so. And then so we have met all the requirements for the requirements set forth by Kansas legislation and by our city ordinance. And then I mentioned here at the end that we have entered into using the Kansas Alcohol Beverage Control and the drug tax stamp to it's essentially as a form of assessing additional penalties that are on an administrative side related to drug trafficking. So. And right now, as of the end of this last year, we do not have any proceeds from that. Any questions?
Regards to the firearm, what can be done with that item
Okay, so
by law? I mean, what are you allowed to do?
So under forfeiture, under the forfeiture statute, when it comes to the seizure and the forfeiture of a firearm, we are very limited in what we can do with that firearm. We are not allowed to sell or trade the firearm. It permanently becomes a property of the police department. We are allowed to trade it to another agency, either for to trade in for another firearm or so forth, but it has to go to a law enforcement agency. If it does not go to a law enforcement agency for the use by that agency, then it must be destroyed. So that's one of the requirements.
So is it something that you are at our agency could use or is desirable to be used? It may not be, I don't know.
I mean, it will be used in some form or fashion. Yes.
Okay,
We have no intention of actually destroying the firearm. So,
well, that wasn't
Well, yeah,
necessarily my concern. It was just, is it something that we can use? And we would want to use, I guess that
Yes.
was my question.
in some form or fashion, and that criminal case involved with that's still an ongoing case. And so
So you kind of have to wait for that.
we don't actually.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Because that was not the possession of it alone was not part of the crime. It was seized as it was being used to facilitate that crime, but there was not a criminal act involving.
Right, it wasn't discharged.
Wasn't discharged, it wasn't used to threaten anybody or anything like that. There's no charges associated with the possession of that.
Got it. Okay,
So, but yeah, that case is ongoing, and so we haven't actually transferred that physically to our capabilities of using, and it's still remaining in evidence until
got it.
we decide to transition.
Okay.
So,
Well, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Appreciate you doing the paperwork and putting it together. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item up on the agenda is business item G3, selection of city's property and liability insurance agent, and I will be declaring a conflict of interest. So I will be removing myself from the room, and I believe Councilman Bai, you will be doing the same.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I will turn the meeting over to Council President Brent Driggers.
Thanks, Brent.
Yeah, they can, in the ordinances, they can.
Okay.
It's gonna move forward.
Yeah, we can without Dave.
All right. Oh. Oh, buys and leaving.
Buys leaving too,
Yeah.
yes. He's accusing himself.
He's not part of the discussion. Yes.
Yeah, we don't have a quorum anymore.
Right.
I was worried about the voting
Right.
requirements. Yeah, we can't.
Can't.
Sorry.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
So we need David here.
we need David here in order to do anything.
Okay.
So
So our suggestion would be to make it part of the next meeting then.
Yeah,
we would
we
just
have
table
to
it.
table it.
Sorry for you guys having to come today. But we're gonna table this and because we do not have a quorum.
Actually, there's a topic that gets in it.
Okay. Okay.
So we will put it as part of the next meeting agenda and we'll table it for today.
Knock it off.
Thank you. So sorry for coming out.
That's okay.
So Blake, come back in and.
Like,
That's what you do.
Still make the K-State game, you know?
there you go.
Who are they losing to tonight?
Oh,
Yeah,
you come on
listen to
now.
But yeah, we don't actually have.
Hey, did you want me to unmute?
Yeah, it's because Dave's not here, we don't have a quorum.
Oh, okay.
With you
So,
guys gone.
with you both gone, we can't do anything,
Ah.
so we've tabled it and we'll move it on to the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks a lot.
I saw David's wife at the ball game and she didn't say he wasn't gonna be here.
Yeah, he
So
emailed me and said he was going to, so I don't know what happened. I hope, hopefully nothing.
I apologize that we weren't able to address this issue today.
That's all right.
So we will move on to item G4, which is letting of contract
First time.
for mowing areas for 2023. Mr. Stiles?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So last 2 years, we've utilized contract mowing for a couple areas in town, and usually that runs from April to October. We've done it with a fixed monthly cost. We've kind of set the parameters for each of the areas. I think we got a pretty good feel for what that looks like right now. And so people who are contracted to do it are set to keep it within those parameters, and they can mow it one time or they can mow it 10 times. It doesn't really matter to us. We just do it based on how much that is and then kind of average it out. The contractor's essentially supposed to average that out. And so what we've done this year, we've taken 2 areas out that we normally, or in the past 2 years we have done, because we hired a new assistant golf and recreation superintendent and kind of rearranged some of those duties. We've taken the airport and the museum fairgrounds out, which leaves us with still four areas that we need to send out to bid. We did flirt with the idea of bringing it all back into the city, but we're shorthanded in the street department and having a hard time hiring that. So it's going to be tough to do that. So what we've got left then are the 4 areas we would propose to put out: Hillsborough Heights, AMPI Police Station. We've got a couple of downtown areas, which includes the area north of the post office and the recycling center. And then we've got Willow Glen and the old hospital. There's some empty lots down there in Willow Glen and of course around the old hospital. It's 4 areas. Last year it was $14,150 for those 4 areas. I'd anticipate that coming in higher. I honestly don't have a very good feel for what that looks like coming in this year. So what we're looking for, what we would do if approved is go out to bid, let people bring in their bids. Usually doesn't take too long. We'd like to get those back by March 1, so you guys could look at them on March 7, and we can have somebody on and ready to roll in April. So this is part of the budget already. We've already got it factored in. So we're just seeking permission now to let those bids out and recruit them back in, or to get them back in, I guess, by March 1.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to authorize staff to let bids for the areas designated 1 through 4, setting due dates for the bids is March 1.
Make a motion.
Councilman McCarty
I'll
moves.
second that.
Councilman By seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is Hillsborough Ford invoices. This one, again, we're gonna have an abstention
But with you here, we can make it work.
Okay, fair enough. So, Mr. Stiles, would you care to elaborate on the
Yes, sir.
Ford invoices, please?
We have a couple of Ford invoices today. It looks like we are, an oil change in service of a police vehicle. And then also we had a starter issue with one of our older street department trucks. So the total cost on that comes out to.
Okay,
I was wondering about that. I just said something, 'cause,
okay, if that's within my purview, I will vote aye.
Abstain.
Abstain, one abstention, so the motion carries
Your
3.
audio's cutting in and out, by the way.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
All right, well, we'll cut it out and that way it won't bother you. Ha, okay, so that motion has been approved. That bill will be paid. And now we have item 6, setting a special meeting for additional senior class project presentations, Mr. Stiles.
Yes, sir. So we have 3 additional presentations that the senior class would like to bring back and present to you guys. Looking for a day to do it. They've got kind of the blue gold schedule, or not blue gold, red and gold schedule, maroon and gold schedule. So
Right and 3, good job.
we're probably gonna need a daytime meeting. And so I don't know what, I wanted to bring that to you guys to see if there's some opportunity to do that. I think they're pretty flexible. We just need to,
What about over a lunch?
we could do it over lunch.
And let's bring in some pizza or something.
We
How does that sound?
absolutely-
That'd be great.
How long do you expect?
We can make it as long as you want it to be, because.
If we've got 3, typically what we've done is given them between 10 and 15 minutes
Okay,
to make their pitch.
so less hour.
Well, yeah, it should be under an hour, I would think.
That'd be perfect.
Okay, so, would like the 28th work? It's a Tuesday. Or is there a day of the week that's better than for anybody else?
Not Thursdays.
Not Thursdays, okay?
Wednesdays are typically good days because
Yeah.
other than church in the evening, there's
Yep.
usually calendars are pretty
Yep.
open.
I'm pretty open since I lost my job.
I'm sorry.
I don't think you lost it, did you?
Well, if you lost it, I know where it is.
I know where it's at.
Find it.
So I have my full calendar in front of me. Can you just email us that?
Yeah, I can give you a couple options and then you guys can call a day.
Uh-huh.
You can call it, if you have more than 3
The
of you. It's fine.
22nd is not good for me. I'll be out of town.
Okay. We're trying to get them in,
And the
as,
23rd.
hopefully early March, sometime in early March, because then we start losing people. So.
Yeah.
What we'll do is if it's a Wednesday over lunch, then I will send that out. I'll talk with Mr. Knoll and talk a little more with him, see what day works best for that schedule, and then we can send that out to you guys, and then you'll have to approve that to set it.
That sounds good. All right. That's a plan.
Sweet.
All right, we are now into our discussion items. And the first discussion items is sump pump sewer connection amnesty program.
So this is an amnesty program. We're gonna, basically what we have here are a lot of cross connections, where people illegally hook their sewer system or their sump pumps or it can be their drain tiles too, and they may not even know that they're hooked up to our sanitary sewer system. But houses built in a certain time frame, it wasn't illegal. Now, we've passed that and changed that in the 80s and it became illegal. And so no home theoretically built after that should have that connection problem. But what we're talking about doing is trying to get, this can be a real big impact on our I&I issue because it can be several thousand gallons of water entering at any during any rain event, especially if you have, 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 houses that are doing it, can really be a significant contributor. So what we're wanting to do then is put together an amnesty program. There's a lot of communities that do something similar. We've basically got kind of a draft outline of that where we would first provide information to people and say, hey, we need you to avoid these connections because it impacts our INI. And if we continue doing that, we may have expensive fixes, which leads to higher sewer rates, which causes problems for everybody. And then what typically happens is you do a voluntary survey to say, okay, do you have this connection in your house? And if so, if you determine that, yes, you do, or you think you might, we would put you on the list, and then we would find a contractor, identify a contractor to negotiate a kind of a fixed rate price so that we can figure out how much one of these is to fix. And that's where it gets interesting because some of them can be very, very complicated and some can be really easy and you just go in and do it, but try to negotiate a price with the contractor so that we can do a bunch of them at one time. And then the city pays for a portion of those repairs or it pays for all of them, depending on what you negotiate out. So that's one way that seems to be the proven way to get these connections taken care of in other communities. We would also like to, as part of that, look at an inspection process. So if there are repairs to an existing home or a lot of times when someone goes to sell a home, it's sort of how it's structured or been structured in other places. It requires a connection inspection from us. So we would put Ben to work checking these connections. And then the other thing is, we'd like to do, it sounds simple, but replace broken cleanout caps. There are, I think, over 40 caps that we had when we were walking around doing meter reading. We found 40 of them that were just off. It's a little nebulous. To me, I don't know that we have an explicit authorization to do that, to go back in and put a $5 cap on somebody's thing to prevent rainwater from coming in. But, I think we'd like to include that as part of this too. So the amnesty part of this is it's the self-reporting, and then we come in and provide some sort of incentive for them to correct the issue. The alternative is it technically is illegal. I guess we could write them a ticket for it, but I don't know that anyone's ever done that. So those are that's the basic outline. I defer to Morgan and Caleb if you have any more to add to that conversation.
I don't.
He did a great job.
Okay. So those are kind of the big outlined issues. What we want to do is, if you guys are acceptable, find this acceptable, is to flesh it out and work with Andrew to put something together that's legally that we can legally do, and then move forward with presentation of what we'd like to do and get it out into the community so that we can begin doing this. There's some unknown costs here. We don't really know until we get out there. We honestly don't know how many connections we have. We have some ideas. We know that there's certain neighborhoods built in a certain time frame where a lot of drain tiles were directly connected to the sanitary sewer, and so those I know we're going to have some issues there. There may be some other places we don't know about. We just want to make sure we get it out there and try to get something going here.
Any questions?
How I know some you can find without any problems.
Right.
The ones you can't find, what do you have to go in the house and
So,
what to do?
so if a resident says, hey, I don't know, or I do not have the abilities to look, we have several ways we can go in and either do a dye test
Mhm.
and drop a dye down into their sub pump and watch their clean out or watch a manhole. Or we can just go in and do a visual inspection and see if it dumps down into their sewer. But generally it's gonna be just a visual inspection unless it's not clearly obvious of where it goes, where we would get into doing dye tests and that kind of fun stuff. But it should be a relatively quick process to determine. But I guess we'll have to see as we go.
We honestly don't know what's out in the system. We have some idea. We've done smoke testing and have addressed some of those issues, but it's pretty simple to disconnect it, and then once we're gone, reconnect it for people. So
When I worked for the city, they did this and they were checking for water that might have flowed back into good system. I remember they did that.
Yeah.
They just came in the house. I mean, if you didn't want to keep them out,
It's,
they didn't, you know.
yeah, it's constant battle. I don't like
I
sending
don't
people
think
into
that was a good
houses.
idea, but I
We
think,
don't have to, or we don't have permission, certainly. We need,
Yeah.
certainly need permission, so.
well, I think it's a good idea. I'm just wondering, you know, if people go along with it, it should work a lot better.
I don't know.
Well, one of the questions and I'm gonna put you on the spot, and Morgan, you and Caleb on the spot here as well, but this issues we're dealing with KDHE and the feds. I haven't heard anybody say what it potentially could cost. I mean, we spent not an insignificant amount of money this evening, you know, working on trying to make repairs to sewer lines we know are problems and that are creating some of this issue. But what would happen, or what would the costs associated, what could it be if we didn't do anything, if we didn't take action, if we just accepted punishment from KDHE? What would that look like, and what could that be costing us?
Well, the first thing I can think of that they mentioned in one of the letters was that they wouldn't issue our permit for the wastewater system. They didn't mention any type of fines associated with it. So I'm not quite sure what the negative aspect would be.
Well, it sounds pretty negative if we don't have a permit to operate our wastewater system.
Right.
Sure.
So what do we do? Truck it somewhere or what?
What'd you do with that?
I mean, what would, you know, I mean, but
Probably
I'm
take
not
it.
trying to be,
Yeah.
Chicken Little here, but at the same time, I mean, there's gonna be a significant bill or pain of some point of some kind that's gonna come if we don't do something about this.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the fine strategy is on something like that.
But there could be,
Yeah.
and I mean, paying a fine, as you know, doesn't fix our sewer.
No, it doesn't.
It just gives our money to the state or to the feds, right?
Right.
So I mean, I guess what I'm driving at is, you know, when we talk about this with citizenry, I think we need to explain that this is you pay us now, or it's gonna cost us all a lot more later type of thing. And so, you know, we're not doing this to be intrusive or you know, be big brother government or anything like that. We're trying to save us all some serious heartache and money and everything else if we don't get this problem fixed, right?
That was good.
Okay, that's so what action, if any, do you need from us at this point on this item?
Yeah, just, you know, at least a consensus for us to move forward, because we don't have a program for you to vote on, but we definitely want you to be like in support of it before we go out and develop it.
Is there anybody here? I'm just gonna put it this way. Is there anybody here that's not in support of this? Okay,
I would like to say that this isn't kind of a harebrained idea that we came up with ourselves.
I didn't figure it was.
It's something that we've spoken with KRWA about quite a bit. We've gotten assistance from one of their circuit riders on developing the program. And there are systems all over the state and all over the United States that are doing some form of this type of amnesty program. A lot of bigger cities started, you know, maybe 8 or 10 years ago. But we looked at a lot of verbiage from, you know, across the country on how everybody's doing this type of thing. And I think you're correct. It seems like you know, going right out the gate, the best chance of success we're gonna have is to, you know, try and frame this in a cooperative nature with our customers and get them on board to help us solve the problem instead of, you know, hitting them with punitive damages if we can
You know, it's
phrase
always,
it in that manner.
I'd always prefer the carrot.
Right. I like honey.
Yeah, that too.
Right.
We can put a little honey on the carrot. There you go.
Probably when they did that 50 years ago, whenever, it really didn't make that much of a difference, but it sure does now.
Yeah, well, it wasn't regulated near as
Yeah.
strict as it was back then, so, or now, anyway.
Okay, you got your marching
Yep,
orders?
we'll get to work on it.
Thank you very much, guys.
Guys, I appreciate it.
Yep. We have our next item is our 2022 year in review and strategic plan quarterly updates.
So I've got the full year in review there for you. Just kind of, we go through and say, pull out all the things that we've done on through the year. I'm not gonna go through the whole list. We've already lived that. It's kind of the History Channel at this point, but there are some, I think it always is interesting when you put it all out on paper, kind of what it all is. And there's been quite a bit of things that we've done this year that I think are kind of notable. Dealing with the trailer, or not the trailer, container home thing. I think that was something that we really worked hard on and had a lot of people helping with that. The HVAC donation for the community building at the fairgrounds. Those are some interesting things. We've met and worked a lot with the Corps of Engineers and our water issues at the reservoir. We've gotten a $1.4 million forgivable loan through KDHE. So that's been a really positive thing. We had Bike Across Kansas come into town. I think that was a great showcase for the community. We've started work on the community plaza. I wish it was finished, and it will be in the spring, but they finished our bathrooms here last week. So we're really ready to blow and go on that. And Tabor started their new dorm project. That's a real big deal for the community. We've seen a lot of different things happen. We bought some new equipment. Of course, we need some more. We've seen a lot of development over the years. I put out the list of things, the kind of by the numbers that we had for the last meeting. I forgot to attach it to this, but we've done a lot, and we continue to move forward and have a lot of forward momentum, which I think is good. If you have any questions about the year in review, happy to touch any of that stuff. On the strategic plan update, just a few things. CDBG for the child care center got moved to May 1st, and so we're prepping with that. The child care group is going to take over the church the day after Easter. They're out after Easter, so we're going to have some public hearings coming up too. Good news, we got a $45,000 grant, or the child care group got a $45,000 grant from Child Care Aware, which is awesome. They've raised over $250,000, got $250,000 in cash. We've got an additional $90,000 in grants kind of hanging out there waiting to hear back on. And there's several private donations. We got some big pledge money out there. So I feel like we're moving pretty good with that. And then they're also going to be putting the fundraising thermometer, the big fundraising thermometer in Dale's supermarket here in the next week or two. So everybody can kind of track that as we go. Moving along with that, it's gone really well. I feel pretty comfortable with that. I'm happy to continue working with that. On the housing thing, we've got a couple of things that we had in the hopper that are going to get delayed to 2024 because of some of the issues. There's some delay and working with the landowner and some other things. So that one over there by the elementary school will probably get delayed until next year. We are working on a rural housing incentive district. We're going to be talking with Wichita State tomorrow about helping with the study that has to go into that. We've got somebody who purchased the Old Town building, and they're wanting to utilize that program to help renovate the upstairs space into apartments. They got some cool plans for that building. I can't really talk too much in depth about what those are at this point, but they are looking to do those apartments. I think it's going to be a really cool project. Happy to see that building get put back to use.
Amen.
Not been one that's been on our list. Like, we got to make sure that one gets back up there. So workforce, that one's the one that we really stalled out on. We haven't had a lot of luck moving forward on stuff with Butler Community College. We've talked about this building trades thing. We just haven't had a lot of momentum from them. So
I think that it's time that we explore and that I knew there was something that slipped my mind when we were up at Topeka. Blake and I were up at Topeka, but that was one of them. And that's, to get some help because Hutch Community always seems like they're ready and willing and able to step up and work.
Yeah.
And, I'm kind of tired of playing the Butler game. They punked out on us on the welding center, and Hutch Community stepped in. And as far as I'm concerned, that's where my loyalty is. That's where, I want to work with people that'll work with us, and they've proven that they will. So we got to figure out a way to get past this Butler business.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
another thing that, on workforce that is pretty new news is Monday, what is it? What day is it?
Oh, yeah.
Monday the 20th. in conjunction with Core Community, the city of Hillsborough will be having a job fair at the Marion County Fairgrounds in the Foods Building. And we're excited about that. And we're excited to partner with Core Community on that. And just real briefly, I got the opportunity to attend their Getting Ahead graduation, and they had about a dozen graduates from in that program this year. And it was really exciting to see those people talk about their experience and the excitement on their faces as they're moving to get out of poverty. It's very impressive. But this job fair is something I think that we certainly, we have open positions, and I know a lot of our businesses do as well. So it just makes sense to keep doing those kind of things. So.
Yep. Keep the partnerships moving, because that's the only way we can really be successful, especially in this area.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. We also had the Center for Central Kansas Entrepreneurship Center at Tabor opened up. We had the official dedication in early January, and so they're moving now with some official office hours. Still looking for a full-time director. The previous director has gone back to doing teaching. But yeah, we're looking for a new director there too. Community development, like I say, we mentioned the bathrooms are finished on that. We've had a couple introductory, we're gonna get moving on that. We're gonna have a spring opening. I don't have a date yet. But we're pouring concrete today, so I know we're moving forward on that.
Just make sure it's a really chilly day, because
It's real cold day.
I've promised to splash as soon as the water's going, so.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly.
We've done a couple planning sessions with staff on the park and museum complex. That's one of those things in there too. And we've got a rough trail map. So we're sort of putting those things together. We've been working with the community, or Kara has been working with the school. We've got the community garden started. We're not real sure what's going to happen with it without Evan Yoder's leadership with that. But we're working to make sure that continues moving forward. And then the planning commission is going to start with a comprehensive plan. We've had to delay that. We haven't had time to do it, but we've got an intern now to help with that. And so they're going to be helping with that and moving forward, hopefully. Financial stability, we've got all, the electric rate adjustments there. The other utility funds are pretty well got their adjustments there. So I think we're on track to meet some of those. Still working on the comprehensive fee schedule. We're hoping to have that here in the spring. We've looked at the local option sales tax. The bonds for the pool will retire after this year. And so how debt structured, some of our debt structured, it's still got to help pay for some of that, but there's going to be a time when it's not doing that. So we need to be thinking about what that looks like. And right now it still generates more revenue than's needed. So there's a pretty healthy balance in there. We've got the timeline with the CIP with EVH. That's going to be April. We've got a pretty hard deadline on that. Public safety, we resubmitted by base grant, so we're hoping to get that funded. It was total project of 4.3 million. It's a 25% match. So I think it's 3.5. Works out about 3.5 million. We get on the grant if we get it. We'll see. Talked with the architects this morning about getting started with the planning process for the fire station, and so. Once we get some dates on that, we'll want to get some participation from this group too. So
Councilman McCarty's expressed interest, and we'll have you part of that group. Is there anyone else that would like to be a member of that group?
I can if you need somebody else.
only if you want to, Blake.
Only if you want to. Sounds so excited.
Twist your arm on it. Sorry.
So put him on there.
We'll put him on there.
You're on.
Good.
That is all I have for that, unless we want to
Okay.
and talk some more, have some more questions. Okay.
Let's move on to our equipment needs, and that probably is going to require more conversation than we may want to spend tonight, but
Well, yeah, I just wanted to start the conversation and say, hey, look, we've got quite a bit of equipment out there that we really have a need for. I think we've talked a lot about it with our department head conversations coming in, and which I think has been pretty positive. One of the things we know we need is a new residential trash truck. Backups are both still serviceable, but not great. So we're really looking at that, thinking we definitely need to do something with that. Golf needs a new mower. We cratered out a 104-inch Hustler mower at the golf course. That was the third motor that was on that mower. And so, it doesn't really make sense to put another motor on it. So, and what we've been doing is kind of switching back and forth with the rec department. But it's gonna come a point where we're gonna need another mower just to keep up with that. One of the other pieces of equipment out there that needs to be replaced is a boom sprayer. That 63,000 on there also includes the, what is it? It's not a Gator. The UTV vehicle that it goes into. That's part of that cost. And so that's why it's so high. It's not just the sprayer. So we've kind of costed those two things out. We had a tandem axle dump truck that cratered last year. That one's a real big one. And I talked with Dale, our single axle dump truck that we use for moving snow. It's got some issues too, some mechanical things. We're kind of limping it along, but it needs to be looked at too. So if you take all that together, it's over $500,000 in equipment that we need to look at.
And none of that's really new, maybe with the exception of the golf stuff.
The golf stuff is new, but
Everything else is used.
yeah, because I can tell you that the new stuff is,
You can't get it.
we can't get it, and B, it's gonna be much more expensive, so.
I know we keep talking about it, but at some point, and I don't even know if it's possible, we've got to figure out a way to try to get ahead of this a little bit so we're not constantly in the hole. I always
Yeah.
feel like we're playing defense instead of playing offense when it comes to making sure we've got the right stuff to do the job that we need to do. And, what happens when you have the wrong stuff is it ends up costing you more because it takes twice as long to do something, because you don't have the right equipment. And, labor is a problem.
Yep.
Equipment's a problem. So, we're gonna have to do something, And again, I don't know what that looks like, but
Yeah, it kind of gets down to where do you even start? I mean, we're so far behind on the equipment because we've delayed it so much, and that doesn't even get into the service trucks. We've got service trucks from the 70s we're still running around in. It's where do you start and stop with something like this? I agree, we need to get ahead of it. But I don't know how we do that.
well, we're gonna have to drive a stake in the ground and
This is what it's gonna be, yeah.
yeah, and I think, you mentioned lease purchase and stuff like that. I think we're gonna have to continue along that line. Right now, I don't think we're gonna be able to come up with $500,000, out of Barney's back pocket.
Oh, I just happen to have.
Yeah. So, yeah. So let's start working this list pretty hard and I think it behooves us to put if I ask you to put a priority, every department head's gonna say, mine is priority one, right?
Yeah.
But I think we have to take an overall holistic view and figure out which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's my thoughts. Council.
Trash truck isn't that old, is it? I mean, it just got used a
No,
lot.
we've got a new one, but that one, the old ones are
back.
Oh, the old one you're talking about.
yeah, this is a backup one. So
It's bad, yeah.
yeah, we got two old ones, one that's very barely functional, and then the old truck, which we still run around, but it's really starting to take its toll as far as maintenance. We've had to, and even the new truck, it's
You
not
could-
that new anymore, but
Yeah, I think
it's got a lot of.
spend it up on their maintenance, you could almost buy a new one sometime.
All right, yeah, it's gotten to that point with hydraulic, even with the new truck, it's been surprising to me how much maintenance we've had to do on it just to keep it moving. But it is the primary truck. It's out there 4 days, 4 or 5 days a week.
Well, it gets a lot of
More than
use.
that.
really
Yeah, and
does.
it's running 10 hours a day, so that is to be expected, and we still owe money on it.
Yeah.
and It's still on a lease purchase, so it's one of those things like we got to figure out a way to extend the life of that by not running it into the ground and then having another opportunity to use something else too.
Yeah, if you had a better used truck, maybe you could run that once in a while. So,
Right.
but you're gonna have to have a lift on, just they want to get out and dump it in the back.
Yeah, well, the one that David and I have been talking about is for residential use, and it's a sidearm so that we can
Oh,
grab our
sidearm?
carts,
Yeah.
yeah, and do that. And it's a little lighter, which theoretically will be a little easier on our roads, which is
Yeah.
another issue. Kind of an unintended consequence of getting that truck is it's heavy and it,
Yeah,
it
it
rotates a lot on
It did.
spots.
run down a lot of, put a lot of dips in the roads, that's for sure.
So I would suggest that we take this list and we get it prioritized and then we bring it back to us to take, we gotta
Yeah,
do
there's
something.
something
So
with
we're gonna have to take some action.
Yeah, we all know some of that equipment's more important than others. May not be to the
Right,
head of the department, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
For
no.
the
for sure.
overall operation of the city, I mean, there's a number of these pieces of equipment that multiple departments will use. And so, those are probably, would be my guess, that places use.
That's where we wanna, yeah, we could probably live without a snowplow, that. We haven't pushed a lot of snow in the last 5 years, and I don't know if that's gonna change or not, but. If we had to prioritize that list, maybe that one wouldn't be the top of the list, but the tandem for sure, we use that in a lot of different places. Those mowers, we run a ton of
Right.
hours on them, so.
Well, I think the trash truck and the twin axle truck are probably, in my mind, probably at the top of the list. And then the mowers let's face it, yeah, it's 43,000, yeah, it's 63,000, but if you do a lease purchase, it's gonna be X amount a quarter or however you set that up. So it's not gonna be $100,000 out of
Right
pocket.
out of the hand, yeah.
Right. So
Was that just a bad year for that mower? Cause we had so much trouble with that engine? or-
Yeah, I don't know.
that was, they told us that particular design of mower, they've had these problems
Yeah,
with.
okay.
So yeah, I'm not
That's
gonna
what
call
I'm-
it a lemon, but it's not. Really hasn't proven to be a good machine.
That's been
Yeah.
great.
Never know anybody now what's going on until it's down the road.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Is that, everybody okay with that,
Sure,
direction?
That's a good idea.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. We got item 4, 101 South Main Roof, Mr. Stiles.
So we've, the city passed the resolution to where we could complete the repairs on that. We've been in contact with Mr. Yang. He came in, we talked to him, owner of the building for Panda Property Management. They had, according to the resolution, to December 30th to complete those repairs. They did do some repairs. They came out and did some things. We've re-inspected those. We found the masonry on the north side of the building to be acceptable. That is safe and completed. We've actually pulled the barricades off of that, but the roof repairs were not accepted. They just weren't acceptable. There's water actually coming into the building still, so we knew that those weren't there. We brought Mahaney back out, who did the
It's a good
initial,
sign.
who did the initial kind of review of that roof to get us the technical piece of it. And they determined that there's about $3,800 worth of additional improvements that need to be done. So I authorized to go ahead and do that under the city's resolution. We had a cost of 16,000 in the resolution, so they've done some work to resolve some of that, but obviously it's still not quite up to code. So I talked with Mr. Yang. He gave me a phone number, so I left him a pretty detailed message about that, and then he called me back and I told him about our intentions and what we're going to do. And he wanted to have his contractor call us and fine. So I think Ben Steckety's talked to that person, but we've decided to move forward with that. Mahaney should be out. I think they were supposed to be out today. I haven't seen them though. I don't know if they were actually out there doing work today. But they're gonna do those repairs at the $3,820. And then that'll be, assessed back to Mr. Yang. If he fails to pay that, it'll go through the tax lien process. And I just want to make it clear that what we're doing is restoring it to safety compliance. This is not a rebuild of the roof. This will only extend the life of this roof for another couple of years. So there's still an underlying issue that's going to need to be addressed, but that is beyond the scope of our action. We're just interested in fixing the problem and making sure that it's not creating problems for other people. So the financial impact of this is the $3,800. We've got it in the capital improvement fund. We'll take that and we'll use that to make this payment. And if we do recover any funds, we'll put it back in there. Yes, sir.
When you have that invoice, when it's all done and you're getting ready to send it to Mr. Yang, do so, don't hold up, but would you send me a copy? I've been in
Sure.
communication with Enterprise's lawyer. And they made no commitments, but I would suspect that if we gave them the courtesy of reaching out and saying, we're sending this to Mr. Yang, here's our invoice, we may be able to make some headway with them too. So if you wouldn't mind putting that on your list, I'll do that when the time is right. Maybe we can avoid putting the lien on.
Oh, that would be,
They've been very cooperative since their counsel and I have been talking, so it's good.
that's great.
That's an improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give an update about it. If you have any questions about it, happy to answer them. But it's gonna get fixed one way or another, and it's gonna meet the code, meet our needs.
How long do you think, how long will that roof repair last, you think? Or you have an estimate, or is it just gonna be a,
2 to
Like a
5
Band-Aid.
years, yeah, it's a Band-Aid. I mean, it just meets the minimum, 2 to 5 years. Depends, if the weather's good, it could be a little longer, but it needs a new roof. I mean, flat out, that's what it needs, but that is not our place to do that. That's building.
we can make him do
Yeah,
it.
we're not gonna do that, but
I mean, we can't, right?
no, well, I don't think so. So I think what we're doing is kind of the extent of what we can do, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get it up to whatever speed that needs to be.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll take your report, Mr. Siles.
A couple quick things, opioid settlement funding, we'll have about $7,000 in that. We're getting some more in here shortly. There's a couple more that have been settled, so that money has to be used for opioid prevention, abuse prevention activities, and so kind of assigned it to the police department to figure that part out. Interns, I want to report that we've got, I mentioned earlier, we're having an intern from Tabor coming on, Alejandro Andres Cialis. I can't even say it right.
Dorado Salas.
There you go. Mouth isn't working. My Spanish isn't great today. He's a freshman soccer player at Tabor. He's from Leon, Spain. He's going to come and help us do comprehensive plan stuff. And then we're also welcoming a project search intern for a 6-week rotation, starting the end of this month.
For the museum.
Yep, maybe at the museum, working with Kara. So got a couple there. I mentioned the child care grant, 45,000 from Child Care to Wear. I'm happy to report we've hired 2 people. We had 5 open positions, but we've hired Tyler Ediger to fill our assistant golf recreation superintendent position. Tyler has worked for us in the summers with the rec, and he's most recently been in Abilene working as an assistant rec director there. So we're happy to have him here. He's a longtime Hillsborough resident, so happy to have him back. And then we hired Billy Hendricks from an electrical position. Billy moved to Hillsborough a couple years ago. He's been an owner of his own business, and just kind of got tired of that and wanted to do something different. He's got a ton of experience in electrical. We're very excited to have him. Both those guys should start by the end of February. So we've got 2 positions filled out of our 5. We're still looking for 3. So if you know anybody who's interested in coming working with us in the office, we got a cool environment and lots of cool people. Looking for somebody in that. And then we've got the water department, water sewer, also a cool department, and street department, also cool. So not as cool as us, but that's fine. And then Kathy's floral sign, just wanted to touch on that. We've got that sign ordered. Talked with the prosecutor today about that. He's recommending we go for an ordinance to authorize that. So
I think that's just fine.
Yeah.
Put one together.
so we're gonna have to have an ordinance to really enforce that. We've got the sign, well, the sign will be here tomorrow and the stand will be here tomorrow. What we're gonna do is put it on a stand initially so that we can figure out which is the optimal space. And then once we're done, we'll fix it permanently. So, and then I wanted to also report that Joe Ullman, who was our prosecutor, got appointed to the magistrate judge position in Harvey County in December. And so Tim Hodge is now our prosecutor full-time, I guess.
Oh, boy.
So Tim was here today. It was good. He was wheeling and dealing in court today, so I think it'll work out just fine.
Good.
And that's all I have, sir.
Okay, any questions for Matt? Okay.
Yeah, I did have one.
Sure.
This county thing out here. Are they still gonna let that guy build them bed and breakfasts on that lot?
Yeah, so the county approved that conditional use 3-2
Uh-huh.
to allow the bed and breakfast part of it. They didn't do the manufacturing part.
Is it all zoned legally? You know, we got that email. I looked at the whole thing and there was a bunch of stuff in there that didn't seem up to par. That's what I was wondering about.
They have a conditional use permit, so the zoning doesn't necessarily matter for that, because they've
Okay.
given them express limited approval to do that one thing.
Okay.
And they've got a list of conditions.
I know a lot of people didn't want that there and I just wondered if that was up
Yeah.
to snuff, you know?
To be determined, I guess,
Yeah.
to be determined.
But not
Well-
something that we have any control of, so. I can
Correct.
Talk to the county if they have an issue.
If they have an issue with that, the county would be who I'd direct them
You know, I
to.
mean, the guys want to make a living. I don't have a problem with that, but I just think they ought to do it legally and so. If that's
Well-
okay with just
We did have a concerned citizen that had a thorough understanding of the rules and regulations of the counties, send in, some information to Sharon Olmsted and that remains to be seen if that has any impact or not.
must have got the same letter I did.
Yeah.
It was well written. I mean, I didn't realize some of that stuff and it was good.
Any other questions or comments? I don't see anybody from the public in the room or online. Any council comments? Councilman By?
Just had a great time in Topeka with you, Mayor. Meeting with Senator Wilborn and Representative Owens. I think we had a really productive conversation with both of them, so but nothing else to report.
I did too, and I appreciate you going along. Thank you, and especially driving. He drove this.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Councilman McCarty?
It's like I said, I thought the city reports were really good. Appreciated
Mhm.
work they put into them.
You're welcome.
Councilman Driggers.
That's right.
Okay, with that, I call this meeting adjourned.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Blake. I feel like I'm yelling now. Thank you, Blake. Can you hear me? Okay.